Well, we have somebody sitting in tonight, so.
Yes, we do. Well,
We have a
first of all,
visitor.
Paul, I'm going to just hand over to you, but just a quick welcome from my behalf. Thank you for everybody for attending. We have 14 participants, and it wouldn't surprise me if we'll have more. So I, with no further ado, I give you our MC, Paul Burish.
Okay, well, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Here we go. So this is the June 11th New England Vintage Electronics Club Zoom. So we have to start dating these programs so posterity knows, when this was all put together. So in any event, tonight we have a little challenge we threw out to throw a little bit of a twist on the show and tell, which is if you were exiled, just like Napoleon, if we sent you off to a desert island somewhere and you had that one radio in your collection, which one would you bring? What one would you absolutely, out of all those hundreds we know you have out in the shack, which one would you bring? And if you could show it to us, wonderful. If you could tell us a little story about why you might have to take that one with you. Your gang here would love to hear that. So that's the question of the night. And I hope, just a little Nevic business here, I hope everybody sent in their nominations. The deadline was a couple weeks back. We should be having an election fairly soon. So, things will be getting sorted out and put together as far as some changes perhaps in leadership of the club. And just to kind of give you a little update on the Zoom, as far as doing regularly scheduled Zoom, it looks like it's every other week at this point. And we do have some guests lined up. So we have a gentleman tonight who's sitting in with us. His name is Tom Kleinschmidt. And Tom represents the Antique Radio Club of Illinois, celebrating their 40th anniversary. So little round of applause for Tom. He was very curious in finding out how we're using Zoom within our club. And, Archie is a big group out in the center of the country, hailing from Chicago, which is Radio Central as far as manufacturing headquarters. And unfortunately, they've, much in the same boat as us with some of their events due to COVID, have had some cancellations. So I think he's very curious to see what this brings to the group. So, and what we've been doing, and to get a feel for the live action that goes on in a Zoom. So Tom, welcome aboard, and I hope you find it entertaining and interesting. And let's see, so with that, I think we could probably start going through the group, John. I do not have a participant list.
I can sort of just, maybe just give you the name.
There we go, I've got the list.
You can just go down in order if you want. We usually do it by entry, but you know what? For this time, it makes sense just going down the participant list.
We'll go right down the listing. Okay.
The problem is that the list is liable to change suddenly if someone comes.
Well, that could be true.
I'll omit them, so I will make sure I keep track of them.
Oh, good idea. Right.
Okay, so
but they also may sneak into different places in the list. So watch that one. That was one of the problems I had that are really difficult. You really have to take down the people as they enter. I'm afraid. No way around it.
Yeah, I had actually done that, but then when we started up, and since we're handing off, I either could have said, "Hey, I'll give the name," and then Paul takes it over. He just go down the list, and so we'll see if we can improve that part of it, but. Oh, we got Bob Harris from the islands here, yeah. So just what you can do is you can put me towards the end.
That's fine. If you want to call folks off in order of entrance, John, that's fine with me, and we'll go to them.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
All right. Very good. Okay, so this evening then, let's go. Bob Harris, you just snuck in there, but we did a little quick introduction. How are you this evening?
I'm fine. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, you're coming through fine, and you appear to be on your desert island already. Would you have a radio that you would like to grace us with the story of?
I do.
That you had to take with you.
I do. I have a few pictures. I'm going to share my screen.
Beautiful.
It says the host is disabled. Attendees screen sharing.
No problem. We'll fix that momentarily.
It still says the same thing.
Wait 1 second here. You should be coming now. That's the default setting. I forgot to enable it. You should be going very shortly, Bob. There we go.
All right. Can you see? Hold on.
Oh, that's your fault.
All right. Can you see that all right?
You see it great.
All right. So here I am on the island. You can see it in my background. This is the radio I take with me You can see it's a transistor radio, AM and FM, and it's actually part of a lunch bag. So you're probably wondering why I'm bringing a lunch bag. Well, I've got a few things in it, and here they are. So this Eaton radio is actually a crank-up radio. You can see a crank over on the left-hand side, right over here. So it's got I think a NiCad battery in it. You can crank it up and listen to different things, weather, TV, if you can get a TV signal where you are. And I figured, I know you said we'd have a AC outlet, but I figured if that didn't work out, I'd just crank away. So that's about it for now, and that's all I've got to say. Take care.
I thought the cooler would be full of the mix for the glass, you know, so you'd have.
Well, I didn't want to corrupt everybody, so.
Or it was going to be for all the fish you would catch, you know, while you were out there listening to your radio. But very professionally done, Bob, as usual. I like the presentation. Thank you.
Thanks.
Well,
Okay.
at least for one thing is you're sure to have a very practical solution here.
Yeah, let's just, all right. If we can clear that off so we can get back to this here.
Let's see here. We gotta. Let's see.
All right, I stopped sharing. There we
There
go.
you go.
So
Good.
sorry about that. I couldn't find the button.
That's all right. No problem.
There we go. Okay, so Bruce Burgess, how are you tonight, Bruce?
I'm doing fine. Greetings.
Greetings.
So I'd like to share my screen as well.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to be like Charlie Brown with all these professional presentations. You guys are all putting me to shame here.
Well, let's see if let's see if I can do this. I think I've lost everything.
So if you go down towards the bottom of your Zoom window, Bruce, you'll find all the different icons where there's a share screen. Usually highlight a little bit in green, right almost dead center.
Well, can you see that?
Not yet. Have you hit the share screen button? Because then you have to pick your window when you.
Right. Well, I'm having a little difficulty because I lost my Zoom window.
Well, I tell you what, if you would like a minute or two to get yourself
Yeah, go
put
ahead,
together
Paul.
there,
Go ahead, Paul.
we're gonna zip over to Tom Pereira and find out what he might choose to bring to his desert island.
Okay, well,
And
I'm
it
up
can only
there.
be one. I mean, I'm sure you have more, but we only want one.
I understand. I'm up here in the middle of Vermont, and I'm assuming that I'm on a desert island somehow. Not
May
quite
as well
mixed,
be.
but if I were on a desert island, this device is definitely what I would want. It is the absolute latest in spy radios. It is an encoded, digitally encoded radio that is used by the Secret Service. And also in all of the war zones at the moment. It's a Harris. And if you look at the back of it here, that little round thing that you see there is the encoding device. And that is the equivalent of an Enigma machine. So I would want to have one of these babies with me. And the neat thing about it is it tunes all of the usual frequencies. So you could immediately put it on the aircraft band, and you could send an emergency signal to an overflying aircraft if you wanted. If it happened to be a military aircraft that was only looking at encrypted communications, you could just use the encryption device within it, and you would be talking to them in plain voice, even though the signal would sound encrypted to anyone listening in. So this is a device. You will actually see these devices strapped to the chest of most of the people in Afghanistan, for instance, the troops, but you'll also see them bulging under the coats of the Secret Service people protecting the president. Now that's my vote.
Cool. Well, you know, you might not wind up staying very long if you had the ability to get a friendly flyer to come over and pick you up there. And that's a Harris. Now, are they known for strictly sort of military, top secret type communications, or do they make commercial equipment that might be available to one of us? Or
It's mostly military. You can't buy these things directly, but as you may know, ham radio operators have an amazing way to get their hands on these things. I got this one in a very strange way. A guy was driving by on a World War II tank. And you might ask, where would anyone be driving by on a World War II tank? And I tell you, it was at a World War II reenactment, of course. And he happened to want a World War II walkie-talkie, like, bear with me a second, like this one. So he wanted a World War II walkie-talkie like this one, and he had that beautiful, juicy Harris in his hand, and he said, "You want to trade?" And I sure as heck said, "Yes, thank you." And we made the trade. And I have this, I don't know whether I'm liable to be caught by somebody for having it, but it's a magnificent piece of equipment.
That's impressive.
So the last question, of course, Tom, we have to ask, are they any relation to Bob Harris?
Not that I know of.
I thought he may have had some separate division down there of in his garage, supplying the feds. Very good.
Well, I have to admit, that's probably the most practical and most strategic solution to your island as you're going to find. So I tip my hat both to Bob and Tom because they picked eminently practical solutions here. I don't know if we can exceed the practicality at this point.
Well,
Let's see what comes up.
Let's take a rundown here. Arthur.
No, I'm sorry. I'm just a stalker here this week.
You're taking in the show. No problem at all. Very good. So let's slide on down here. How about Roy in the motorcycle factory? What's going on, Roy?
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. Everybody hear me?
What is behind you? If you could just, if you're familiar with
vintage BMW motorcycle shop.
BMW. All right.
Yeah.
I like the background, Roy.
Thank you. Okay, if I screen 2, can everybody see that? Actually, I have to share first. Okay, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Okay, so if you had one radio to have on an island, what would it be? Oh, hold on one second. Get the right screen here. It would be the RCA Strato World, of course, because it's an easy to carry suitcase style cabinet, and it's kind of made for the outdoors. It's called the Strato World. Now, if anybody comes up with the Zenith Transatlantic after this, just keep in mind that the Transatlantic is only good for one ocean. The Strato World is good for all of them. It has AM and 5 shortwave bands. So what can you do with that? You can stay apprised of all the happenings going on in the world. You can also learn multiple languages because you can pick up on the shortwave all kinds of different countries here. So you have a lot of things to do with your time. And you have multiple antenna options here. You've got the shortwave antenna, you've got the regular one here, so you got some redundancy. And also, because you're on an island, there's typically shacks on islands, and there may be one of the original Radio Shacks on that island. And if so, they probably have batteries, and this does work on batteries too, because yeah, I know you have electricity, but you kind of want to move around the island and enjoy yourself. So why be tethered? And you've got storage. So, if you have some bananas, nuts, what have you, small coconuts, you can do all of that right here in this beautiful big area, and you should be all set. But wait, there's more. You even have a pop-up world map. I mean, if you want to get off that island at some point, you're going to really have to have some kind of navigational skills, and this actually gives you all of that right here. So case closed.
Beautiful.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
That's awesome.
So Roy, if I could just ask you a couple of questions, what's the vintage on that? Is that 40s, say post-war?
It's 1954.
54, because I was going to say it has a slick look, and the knobs, it has a very sort of modernistic look when you had the dial face exposed in the control panel. Then the other question I would ask you is, where and how did you find that? Was it in as pristine shape as it is? Because that battery cabinet looked as if you could eat out of it. I mean, it's awfully clean. The map I've seen on some of those sets is one of the first things to get worn and kind of tattered. And yours looks great. Where did you get this thing?
So I actually, when I first joined NEARC, it was the first show that I went to, and I picked it up at that show. It was I think it was the one in Nashua, and like I said, it was the first time I ever showed up, and I saw this. I grabbed it. I didn't know if it worked. The dial string, it works about 7/8 of the dial, but it doesn't get to the either end. But the sound is phenomenal. It's got a really large speaker, and yeah, it was in great condition. That's why I picked it up. But,
So not only did you get a great set, you also did an endorsement for joining your local vintage electronics club. So
oh yeah,
we appreciate that, Roy. We couldn't have wrote that script any better. We'll put the check in the mail.
all right, thanks. I got to now find the screen. How I stop sharing here?
Okay.
Oh boy, yep, there it is.
Oh, all set.
Thank you. Thanks, John.
You're
done.
welcome, Roy. I think it's just helpful to help people out, there. I
Okay,
love
so let's
that background. Big win there.
let's blast up the list. Bruce, how are you doing? Have you got yourself squared away there with your screen?
I think so.
Beautiful.
So-
Well, let's take a look at what Bruce brought.
So I'd like to, I have to hit the share screen button first.
Correct. And then you can pick your window that you want to share.
Click
Okay.
on,
Can you
on-
see that?
click
Not
on the
yet.
window you want us to see, Bruce.
Well, I did. Can you see it?
No, not yet. So you have to hit when you hit the share button, it'll give you
Yeah.
which windows you want to, which one you want to choose. And you choose the picture or whatever you want to show. You just select that window and it'll share your desktop. Oh,
There
it's
you
looking
go.
good.
Oh, good. Okay.
Oh, baby.
There you are.
So I'm kind of restricted in what I could choose because I'm still in Maryland. We're heading to Vermont tomorrow. So my shack is kind of small, but I was thinking if AC is available, then the radio that I would choose would be this one on the bottom, which is a Kenwood TS530 Sierra. And actually, it's not a Kenwood, it's a Trio, but that's the Canadian or UK version of the Kenwood. And I chose this because it's a transceiver, so in addition to listening, I would hope somebody would listen to me for help. So it's a transmitter and a receiver as well. This dates from 1983. Let me go to the next one. And it has all the ham bands plus 3 of the work bands. So we got 160 down here, and then we go up higher in frequency. There's 20 meters, there's 15 meters, there's a couple of 10 meters, and in between we have these work frequencies. So it gives you extra coverage. And so that's one, and I chose this one over my favorite radio. Whoops, hang on. Now what have I done? 1 second. I chose, where am I going? I don't even know whose that is. All right, stand by.
That's quite all right.
Is it the Zoom bomber, John? Do you have the detector on?
Yeah,
You know if
yeah,
we're being
there we
followed?
go.
All right,
You
well,
finally found us.
anyway, the 520 is over here on the left. And that's my favorite radio. That's from 1978. But so I better stop before I just foul up the whole mess. Those are the radios. What's on top here is interesting. This is a general coverage receiver, an ICOM, and it goes all the way from low frequencies up to 30 kilocycles, I suppose. So that's interesting as well. But that's receive only. Okay.
Are those frequently used by you, Bruce? Are those your daily drivers?
Yeah, I do. As a matter of fact, this particular one is on 500. This is on the medium wave frequency and 540 kilocycles. Right near me in Pocomoke City is an old vintage rock and roll station. So that's where if I'm not doing doing anything serious. I just listened to that on the rock and roll.
I would think with that type of a rig and the antenna you must have to go along with it, if you're looking for lower power broadcast band stations, that would be the rig to bring them in.
I'd need a big island for the 160 meter antenna, which I have, which is nearly 284 feet long.
Good deal.
Yeah.
How do you like the R71A? I notice you have the passband tuning one.
Yep, that's right.
George was wondering, how do you like that? How do you rate its performance?
Oh, well, it works. That's all I know.
Well, that passed the
You
test
know,
for me, really. I mean,
I got it at a very inexpensive transaction. There was a ham in Middlebury, Vermont, who was moving to Baltimore, and he was an early member of our club. And he called up the club or one of the members and said, "I'm moving. Everything's free. Come get it."
those are good deals.
Good deal.
Yeah, Tom, that was, I can't remember the guy's name right now, Al Frost. He
Oh,
lived
yeah.
up on Route 7. So anyway, we came and got it. And actually, both of these rigs came from his ownership.
Wow.
So,
You know, that's
yeah.
another great argument to, you know, if you're talking to anybody and they say, why do you visit that Nevic IO group? So shortly before John zoomed out the invitation tonight, there was a post and then a find on 3 sets from a woman's house in Chelmsford, a British receiver, a Canadian receiver, and a Magnavox set that were free to the taker, and they were posted and gone within about 15 minutes. So even if you never post on IO, you think I don't have much to say, or you never know what you'll find, or you never know if you're working on a project. We've seen a few more things where people look to get buy and sell parts, or to find some technical help. So talk it up. It's a nice little feature of the club. Well, thank you, Bruce, for sharing that.
Thank you.
And let's see. So we can say hi to Tom Kleinschmidt, who is not on a desert island. I don't believe he was prepared to travel, but say hello, Tom. We just want to pass along greetings and salutations from the New England Club to our brethren out in Chicago. Are you getting your volume up? I think he's muted, John. If you can unmute him.
Yeah, we can fix that. Just gotta find him here. There we go. Okay. He should have unmuted.
Yeah, okay, I think I'm unmuted. Am I there?
Yep,
Yeah,
we've
sure.
got you unmuted. That's not, that's not what we do to all people who come and visit us either. We don't mute them and then tell them to.
Oh, that's all right. 'Cause, if I make a little noise, I'll end up taking priority and messing up the whole program.
Well, thanks for coming by, and we're glad to have you.
Well, welcome to virtual Chicago, and we're doing the same COVID dance you guys are doing. And in fact, just a sidebar, we get a lot of contact from the general public trying to find homes for radios you just mentioned. And I was at a lady's house today because her husband passed away, and we helped her sell a lot of her stuff, but she had the residue and she didn't know what to do with it. And we have a situation where people donate their radios to the club and we sell them to members. So I've got a couple of tables in my garage covered with nothing real special, but some radios that shouldn't hit the trash. So that was this afternoon's exercise.
What's the weather like out in Chicago? Did you guys get washed out with all the rain?
There
Not so
were
bad?
lots of people that got a lot of rain. We got a lot of wind here, and but it's been beautiful the last couple of days. I think we hit 82 as a high today, and unlike Chicago, it hasn't been humid. And
Very
usually
good.
it'll drive you right out of here in the summertime.
Enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah. Well, the one, it's a standard joke about Chicago. If you don't like the weather, hang around, it'll change. So, but we've been enjoying some really unseasonably nice weather. So we hope it's going to hang around for a bit.
Well, Tom is going to come back and chat with us a little bit more about the club and some of their activities next time around. So he wanted to get a feel for things we do with Zoom and how we run it. So Tom, thanks for sitting in. And I think our next candidate here on the list is, I see Frank Healy, but I do not see any video from Frank. So I don't know if he has a technical issue he would like to present, or if he's watching the show tonight. Can you hear us, Frank?
Can I just make a momentary comment for Tom? Tom, we did have a Zoom Fest, sort of a ham fest, and you can watch the video for that, see if it's at all relevant for your club. It's John Gibbons put up the video. It's quite accessible.
Yeah, Tom, if you want me to, I can send you the links over email since I have your email address. And so if you want to take a look at some of our past Zoom meetings as well as our Zoom Fest, just to get a sense of what was thought to be a really well done, short notice put together by Tom and by Bruce Phillips, who you will meet at some point. Maybe he'll attend the next meeting. But it worked out very nicely because it was a way for people to be able to sell a handful of items or at least bring it forward. And it became maybe a part show and tell and a radio club. We also had a radio contest as well, so you could have a mixture of selling or people entering a contest. So it was a nice potpourri, and it worked out very nicely. And maybe you'd find it useful if you did it on your club there.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a virtual way for us to have a little swap meet, which we were unfortunately prohibited of. Our spring event fell by the wayside in person, but we did pull it off, so we can say we have not canceled the meet. And that's with the snow and the weather, you guys can relate to. That's a point of pride up here. So again, check it out. It's you could give that guy who runs your website, my friend Jimmy, a job. He doesn't have enough to do with the website. He could maintain an archive of all your Zoom meetings. He could be the librarian now too. Just don't tell him I suggested that, because he'll pull the plug out on my website tomorrow.
And I'm
morning.
sure he'll never see this video either.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's see. Who else do we got coming up here?
I guess we lost Frank.
Well, let's see. Yeah, he may have. There may have been a technical issue there. So let's see. Gary Norman. Gary with us? He's muted. I think.
Yes, I had a little bit of trouble unmuting. I didn't really prepare a presentation, and I just quick at the last minute found a picture on the internet of the receiver that I had chosen.
Let's see what you got there, Gary.
Hope it doesn't look too hokey. Okay, let me share screen, and I should share this. Share. Right there. I decided to pick a Hammerland HQ 180. A very nice high-end general coverage communication theater, up to 30 megacycles, double conversion on the lower bands, triple conversion on the upper bands. I picked it because it had good high performance, and it had, could receive sideband like on the ham bands, and it had the band spread calibrated for the ham bands. So I said, this is probably the best choice. I was really torn between this one and another Hammerland, the SP600. And that is a very good receiver too, but it's a little different. It's a little older design, single conversion. But it had good performance. In fact, the SP600, when I was using it about 25 years ago, I listened up on a 6-meter ham band with it, and it seemed pretty sensitive, even up at that higher frequency. But I thought about it and I figured this one weighed a little bit less. And if I had to schlep it from where the boat dropped me off on the island to where the radio was going to be, I wanted something a little lighter.
Well, if you ever needed an anchor, right? That's the other old joke. And it's interesting that you brought this up on the Universal Radio, website, because not only do they have sets that they still sell, but they've got all this stuff that's gone out of production for many years. It's like a little bit of a library too. You can find some really neat things if you poke around their website. So it's a nice place to kill a few minutes online. Well, very good, Gary. Thank you for sharing.
And it's got good information on the receivers too.
Yes, and they also have a nice used department that they have stuff that has been used or is still available. And they're quite upfront. They'll tell you whether it's functioning, not functioning, and if you're looking for something and you don't mind going through the lists, I'm sure some people have found some good deals out there too.
Don't forget to bring your speaker.
Oh, I'm just going to add, the matching speaker is kind of big, So you may want to dispense with that and just go with like a small mobile speaker that you can stick inside the thing as you're carrying it.
All right.
Okay, now how do I unshare this?
Up at the top.
Oh,
Beautiful. There we
All
go.
set.
I think I
And we're
just
back.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks for showing us that. George, what do you have up your sleeve for your trip?
Okay, let's see. First of all, I wasn't thinking so much about the being on the island so much as just finding a radio I'd enjoy. And so this, well, actually, I'll put this one up. This was the radio I'd picked. Can you see it?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, this is a radio. It was made in England back in 1935 by E.K. Cole Company. It's an Echo SW86. It was a exported type radio made for, outside of England. Unfortunately, hopefully the island has 220. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to bring a converter as well. I just happen to really like the radio. First of all, it's a huge radio. It's 22 inches wide. It's 12 inches high, and it weighed a ton. And I purchased it from a guy in New Zealand, so shipping was a whole thing in itself. And so this would also work as a good anchor as well. And one of the things, first of all, the radio just sounded great, and it really picked up well. General medium wave and 2 shortwave bands. And I guess I kind of felt a little bit proud of this, like in the last Zoom meeting, with some of the dials that have been recreated. This was one of my first recreations of a dial. The original one had kind of discolored and shriveled, and so I ended up buying an old copy of Corel drawer and basically, took a picture and laid it up against it and then built a new one. And so, in fact, I have it set up so that people can, I've had a few people ask me for it.
That's superbly done. In fact, we'd love to see you post a larger picture of the dial scale. That looks great. Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the one that I built, and that's off of print. I on my website, I published the PDF for it, and this is the outer dial. And if I go to the inner dial, it do a lot of them on one page. So, but this is kind of like the little, I don't know what you call it, like a little tickler, so you can kind of find the same receiver at the same, the same station at the same time. You kind of remember where it is and then what number on this dial.
Ah.
I believe they
That a
call it
logging scale.
I'm sorry, what's that?
I believe they
They
call
call
it.
that a logging scale?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so then this shows the bands on it, and but anyways, it was one of my favorite radios, I think, mainly because it was such an effort to get it here. One of the problems with it, of course, well, it could be from a point of view of aesthetics. On the bottom, I don't have a picture of it, but on the bottom, someone took like some drill bits and drilled out a bunch of holes in a big circle, and essentially knocked out the bottom of the plate all around the alignment. They used, I'm trying to remember if they were trimmers or whether they actually had slugs on this thing, but I guess it's kind of a bear to take apart. The chassis is like on rails inside, and the big power transformer and all that stuff. So I guess someone decided they wanted to do the alignment without having to pull it all apart, and so they cut into the cabinet. So, but anyways, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like I said, it's not the most practical. If I was going practical, I'd probably start thinking about more like one of those software-defined radios.
Well,
go all over the place.
The question goes a couple of different ways. You'll have people who go down that practical point of view. I want to get rescued. I want to get the latest in communication. Then you'll have other people say, you know what? This was something I've been searching for 50 years of collecting. I finally found it. And, it could be a DeWalt Catalan. It's just something that they feel it's their security blanket as much as it is a functional radio. So lots of different ways to look at the question. But thank you for showing us that. That was neat.
You're welcome.
All right, let's see. Hugh, Vitarian. Vartanian. I'm sorry, Hugh, for the
That's okay.
pronunciation. What do you have? What do you have for us tonight?
I didn't really have a chance to prepare much. I mean, I thought about it a bit. The 4,000 CDs on this little disc, some way of playing those would suit me. That I wouldn't have to depend on the world. I started that mission, I think, around the year 2000 with my CDs, and then started adding my friends' collections and burning it back to them. So actually, if anybody'd like a copy of it, I have a few on these. So send me a private message. And then the other thing that crossed my mind is something two-way, so there'd be a way to talk to people. But you guys are far deeper into the radio world than I've been. I have my couple of Telefunkins, and I'm happy with them. And one of them with the shortwave bands would probably do me fine.
Very good. Very
That's
good.
a fine looking shirt there, Hugh.
Oh, there we go. Oh, yeah. Well, that's got the back, too.
Oh, very nice.
Yes.
Some
It's
big,
part of the BMW M3 special interest group. One of those guys who does these shirts from different race cars every
nice
summer.
shirt.
Beauty.
Throwing a little sidebar.
Yes.
So, John, would you have something for us, John, this evening?
I do. In fact, I will share my screen.
Well, actually, I was calling John Coomer, but that's
Oh,
fine.
no, you know what? Put me towards the end. Go ahead. Go ahead with John.
Okay, you sure?
John, please. No.
My mistake for you. Too many Johns. Anyway, go right ahead.
I'm kind of a sentimental guy, and I couldn't figure out what to show. And I realized it was 50 years ago, this past Monday, that I got my novice ham license in the mail. So I've been a ham 50 years. And
All right.
I was WN2OJK. Now I'm WA2OJK with an advanced license. And I thought about my first receiver, and I only have a photograph of one. I'll see if this holds up. It's a Heathkit HR10B. And the person who gave the novice license exam back then, I guess he had to be a general or some advanced or something to give the license, was named Paul Hertzberg, K2DUX. His father was Robert Hertzberg, who wrote a number of books, W2DJJ. He wrote a number of ham radio books. And he actually built this. And in one of his books, he used this one, the one I purchased, as a photograph in one of the books he wrote. But anyway, what I remember most about that receiver is, it's primitive, certainly. It's my first, I was 15 years old at the time, couldn't afford much. But I did get a Worked All States certificate on CW as a novice with this receiver. I did whatever I could to do it.
Do you still have it, John?
No, I don't. In fact, I must have sold it in the sometime in the late 70s. It was at a time where, to buy something new, I had to sell the old stuff.
Yeah.
But even though it was a very primitive thing, I was able to get Worked All States with I think I had a 40 meter, 15 meter dipole. So those are the two bands I could work as a novice. And the only other thing I could show, because I was looking for something maybe I built in 1970, and I don't know if I'm allowed to show this kind of thing, because this is a family kind of Zoom meeting, but this is a device I built from scratch. I don't know if you could see what this is. It's a black colored box.
Yeah.
And it has 12 buttons on it and an on-off switch and an extra button. This is another version of it. What?
The blue box.
Oh, or a black box in this case. And here's another version, but with this is actually a Chromerix keypad. I believe that's a Massachusetts company. I don't know if they're still around. But all I could say is that my parents really didn't keep track of what I was doing. I was 15 years old.
Famous last words.
Yeah, I was 15 years old, and I was interested, oh, how does the telephone company work? And I did actually get them to work a couple of times. One of them, I think, had wound coils and the other used an IC. I refer to them as multi-frequency oscillators. So this is, I found this, I still have it, which is shocking. Yep, they worked on, in fact, on this box is a Lafayette label.
All right.
I got the box from. So that's also like 50 years old. Anyway, you know, that's really what I was thinking of this week, being a ham for 50 years and
still doing it. Well, good for you.
And
Congratulations.
if anyone needs a box of unused discs, let me know. They're still sealed up. That's it.
All right. Thank you, John. Thank you for sharing.
Okay.
So let's go up to Mac 3. What do we have going on there? Is that a wooden radio that you're bringing with you up there? Hello.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Coming over, yes.
Okay. Well, yeah, see the radio behind me is an Empire radio. And it's the only radio I have that has a shortwave band on it. And it's a 160 meter band. And originally it has its filaments in series, but that was before they arranged to have the filament voltages enough to add up to 110 for a standard table model radio. So instead it had a big resistor. But years ago the resistor failed, and now that's the resistor. This 40-watt light bulb.
It's practical.
In series with the filaments of the 6C6 and the 6B6 and the rest of the total of 4 tubes in the radio. So being that's my only shortwave radio and the only radio that I was able to bring to sit behind me, that's the one I chose to bring with me. By the way, it's old enough to have a dial that just goes from 0 to 100. It has no frequencies listed on the dial at all.
Very cool. Well, not only do you have a source of information there, you've got a light source. You know, you don't need a flashlight with that.
By the way, I'd like to get my name changed to be Pear, which is my real name. I don't know where the Mac 3 came from, but if it'd be possible to make that change, that would be nice. My name is P-E-R, Pear Christensen.
Is that something you can change on the screen, John? Is that just his device that he's using that came up as a Mac?
Let's see if let me see if I can make that.
He
Actually, I
can
can't
change.
rename. What's the name again, please?
First name is Pear, P-E-R. Spell
P-E-R.
P is the first, P as in Peter is the first name.
Mm-hmm.
And then Christensen, C-H-R-I-S-T-I-A-N-S-E-N.
Okay.
Well, while John is typing, we're going to go
How's that?
get with the next person on our listing
Nice
here.
going.
Great, that's perfect. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. It's good to be no longer anonymous.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so let's
That's
see.
all I have to say.
Larry, what's going on up in Maine? You look warm up there. Is it sticky?
Yeah, but I think it's getting better. I think the
Good for
front's
you.
moving through.
What do you
Anyway,
have for us?
good evening, everybody. Good to see everybody. Lots of interesting comments so far. Well, like a lot of the people who presented so far, I'm also a ham. And I was wrestling with this for a little while. I wanted, should I really take something vintage with me if I was stuck in that situation? Or would I be practical? And practical won out over interesting and vintage. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see, which window do I want? geez, I've got too many things open. Why don't you come back to me? I'm going to have to close some stuff out because
Sure, Larry.
what I want is off screen.
I'll tell you what, why don't we zip over to Ken Silvestri and see what Ken might have brought to show us that he might have to have with him if he was exiled off to the desert island.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
We can.
All right. Well, similar to Bob Harris, he had some little extras I don't have, but I have this little cute little case here, and inside is my little Grundig FR200. And this is a crank radio. It's got doesn't take much to crank it for it to run. And got a light, LED light, and there's my coffee maker RFI on the AM band. FM's pretty clean, and 2 shortwave bands. So I went practical.
Ken, how long would that thing play on, how long would you have to crank it up to get it to play for like a half an hour?
Well, it depends on the volume. If you have it at a moderate level, maybe 3-4 minutes of cranking.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
It holds pretty well. And plus it has a backup battery inside.
Very good.
So the only thing I wish it would have was if it floated on the water in case there was a tsunami that hit the island. But
Very good.
That's my choice.
Thank you, Ken.
Hey,
Thank you,
Ken,
Ken.
before you get off, I have to give you a compliment to your shirt. Although I'm sad to see what happened to the aircraft. It's a good shirt there. I seem to be picking on people's shirts tonight. And actually, I forgot to give Gary a thumbs up for the club shirt. So, he gets extra points there.
There we are.
Oh, yeah, there we go. That's a nice, it's very sad what happened only about a year ago.
I did a walkthrough about 3 years ago on that plane.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford to fly. I think it was
Yeah.
$500. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've walked through both aircraft. At least the B-24 is still flying, but very sad.
Yeah, it was.
That was tragic.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's see. How are you doing up there, Larry? You got your windows closed and
Yeah, let's try it. Let's
Give it a
try it
shot.
again. All right, I'm going to share my screen. Do I see it now? Yes, I do. Yeah, all right. So let's see. This is the one I want to show. Practical one out over pretty or vintage or interesting. If I was stranded on a desert island, I think I'd take this with me. This is a Kenwood TS440S HF transceiver. And so for receiver capability, it's general coverage from 30 kilohertz to 30 megahertz continuous. And after I clipped a diode inside of it, it gave me the capability to transmit anywhere from 1.5 megahertz to 30 megahertz. All right, so it puts out 100 watts, I figure if I'm stranded, I'd have a lot of time on my hands, and being on a desert island, I'd be the rare DX that everybody wanted to work. So I would be probably spending a lot of time on this radio. It'll run either from a 12 volt DC source. Probably you'd want maybe 15 amps at least, or the power supply, which is to the left of the radio for AC operation. When I got tired, I could always tell somebody, hey, come get me. So
we still have to work out the QSL card arrangement, but we've got a lot of conversation to have.
well, yeah, well, if I couldn't send out QSLs, it would save me a lot of time and postage. So
That's true. That's a good way to positive.
Larry, if you went off band, you could always wait for the FCC to find you.
yeah, that's true. That's true. No, this came out before a lot of the frequencies we have available to us now, you know, were available to us. So clipping the diodes gave me 60 meter capability, for example. So that's something I've put to use.
Very cool.
Larry, what's that very interesting microphone? Who made that?
You know, there's no manufacturer on it. It's something that a friend gave me at a Hamfest, and it originally had a dead crystal cartridge in it. I put in an electret element inside of it with a little 2-transistor amplifier. So that's the microphone I use for this setup. And the electret element has very good frequency response, 20 hertz to 20,000. So it goes into an audio rack, which is off the photo here. So let me just show you one more thing here.
Microphone looks like it has a very heavy, sturdy base. I don't think that's tipping over anytime soon, huh?
No. And Bruce Phillips has one of these microphones in his cellar. Of course, he's got just about everything in his cellar. So, but I doubt his has the electret element in it.
It looks sort of like one of the mics that came with the Webster, either wire recorders or very early tape recorders.
Could be. It was unique looking, and you know, I figured it had to be my main microphone at this location.
Larry, I hope you haven't encountered the dreaded dot disease on the 440 yet, have you?
I have, and it's been fixed.
My own drug picks me up at least putting the band back together.
Okay, so I'm all set unless anybody has any more questions.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Larry. We appreciate it. And let's keep scrolling here. Let's see. Len Azumanian, did you bring something to show for us tonight, sir? How are you?
I'm doing this on my phone, so I'm not sure I'm going to be able to share this, but let me give it a try. Can you see that?
Not yet.
How about now?
Not yet.
We see your name, but nothing else.
Yeah, see, I've never done a share with the phone. It says share screen. Hold on one second.
If you want to work on that a little bit, Len, we can throw it over to John Gibbons, who's got something nifty to show us.
Yeah, do that.
All right, well, let me go share my screen. Can everyone see this? Can everyone see this?
Nice. Yes.
Well,
yes.
I'm going to choose the infinitely impractical. I'm embarrassed to say that all of you gentlemen have far exceeded me in every way from the practical standpoint, but I will admit, I thought about my RCA transoceanic, but I actually bypassed it. And the reason being is that, well, this radio has been in my family since new. And my aunt bought this brand new, and this is a Telefunken Sonata 5183 WK, which was made around 1960 into 61. This is an early stereo. It only supported stereo through the auxiliary input. It could do multiplexing that way, but it didn't support, didn't have from the factory an FM decoder. But at any rate, my aunt bought this new, because her brother, my father, was a huge Telefunken aficionado. And I will actually quickly share a photo quickly what should have been, what I should have taken. But this is the radio that got me in the hobby. When she sold the family house in Queens, my grandfather, who bought a house brand new in Woodside, New York in 1925, the house was sold around 2009. And she gave me a call on the phone after she moved to recount the tales of the move. And she made a passing comment that, oh, I meant to leave my old radio in the house for the new owners, so I didn't want to take it with me. But the movers mistakenly took it. And so now it's up, and ready to be put in a storage shed. And she goes, do you want an old radio? And when she said that, I thought, oh, it's just probably some transistor radio or something that probably couldn't possibly interest me. And then I stopped and I said, well, what radio? She goes, oh, my Telefunken. And I stopped. And going back in time, I remembered this radio as a little kid visiting, the house, whenever I visited the house in Queens. And I was fascinated by the EM84 tuning eye and all the buttons and so forth. And of course, I didn't dare touch it because my father would definitely put me in the brig for that. And I hadn't seen it in decades because she actually bought a replacement radio, a very nice Sony, very last Japanese-made Sony compact system that was probably from 1973. So this entire radio went up to her sister's room upstairs in the house in Queens. So I have not seen this in decades. So when she told me she had it, I said, yeah, sure, I'd love to have it. So I drove all the way down to New York to pick this up, and thankfully I remembered the legs come off because it was a tight fit in the car. But I got it home, and I did a full sympathetic restoration. So this is the original finish. Everything you see is original. I've never cosmetically had to do a thing on this other than a lot of polishing, a lot of cleanup, and look, and there's absolutely no cracking on the piano finish. That nice nitro finish. The only thing that doesn't work is the phonograph, which eventually I'll deal with. But otherwise, what I also did is I replaced this radio shared the same chassis as the Telefunken Allegro, which is probably one of the more common tabletop radios you'll find, but it shared the exact same chassis. So this one was not working that well. So I had a well sorted out Allegro, so I did a full chassis swap. The only difference is that there's a wide dial face, so you have to be very careful because this is not tempered glass, it's very fragile. And of course I did just some basic servicing, and this thing is as we see it. And I thought about, when I bypassed the RCA, I thought, I've got, if you look in the lower right here, you'll see I have a set of Telefunken All-Fox Strahler RS1 speakers. This was an accessory for this radio back then. So with this extra speaker, I get a 4-speaker system. So if I'm stuck on an island and I do have AC power, that means I can bring a lot of music on my Kindle, Fire tablet, whatever, and play right through the system. I do have shortwave, I have AM, I have FM, and if I get the phonograph fixed, I'll even have records. So
and, John, you could open up a nightclub with that thing. That's what you didn't tell us. You're going to build the beach bar to go with it. It's a very impressive piece, and with a great family angle too.
Yeah, that's why it would have to go with me if I'm going to be stuck. I may as well go impractical and enjoy it.
Very good. Very good.
Thanks, everybody.
Wonderful. Let's get back over to Len and see. Len, how are you doing there? Have you been able to, is this not something that you'll be able to execute on your phone, huh?
Oh, we got to get loud. I'll get him unmuted.
Get him unmuted. Thank you.
Hey, Len, I can't unmute you.
There you go.
There we go. It just takes a bit of time. There we go.
You want to give that another shot, Len, or do you think it's just not compatible with what we're trying to do?
I think it's just not compatible. I can't figure out how to do it.
Well, let's see. Well, then now you know how Da Vinci felt,
Yeah.
You want to give us a verbal, Len?
Well, it's actually it's the radio that that got me started on Rhode Island radios, and it's made by Giblin. It's a Giblin Model RL. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it. And it came with a big loop antenna, and it's just the one that got me started. I didn't go for practical. I didn't think of it as something to save me out on the island. It was just my favorite radio. So
You're going to be there for a while, so it pays to have your favorite.
right.
I hear you. All right, well, let's see. Carl, did you bring something along tonight, or you look like you're rested and ready to go? Do you have a set you'd like to show or share with us? A little volume issue. I don't think he's muted, John.
No, he's not. I'm taking a look, and everything is. I don't have video either, though. So
I don't know if you can hear us, Carl, but we're having some difficulties hearing you.
You hear me now?
Yes,
There you
sir.
go.
there we go.
Yeah, okay. No, I didn't do my homework assignment, teacher, so I'm just cribbing off everybody else.
That's all right.
Can we put you on the spot,
Sorry
Carl?
about what?
Could we put you on the spot and say, well, what's that radio? That'll come right to mind.
What's your favorite?
Oh, without a doubt, I'd bring my Flex 5000. I've had that about 7, 8 years now, and I love the SDR capability. I love the waterfall. You know, if I don't have any signals, I can just sit and watch that for hours. I'm easily amused.
All right. Well, thank you, Carl, for your
All right.
selection
I
for
realize I'm probably now
gallery.
thrown out of Nevin for not doing my homework and then choosing a modern radio. But what are you gonna do?
This is a no pressure situation. Feel free, for anybody at any time. This is show and tell. So there's plenty of folks who have a story to tell. You can soak it up and save something for the next time. So I do have a set.
Oh, I have a story to tell one day.
All right. That sounds like a threat. All right, Carl. Thank you. Well, I tell you what, John, I'm going to attempt to share my screen here and
All right.
see what you come up with here. Oh. How'd I do?
And we can see.
So
Looks good.
I went on the practical side of things here, and this was something, you buy a nice radio to give somebody and it comes back to you. Well, I guess my father-in-law never used this very much we gave it to him as a gift, and we're cleaning out some of his stuff as he's had to move. And so I found this little Grundig yacht boy, and it's in great shape. The only thing we had an issue with is he apparently had left the batteries in, and there was a good deal of leakage, but we did manage to extricate the batteries, and the contacts are pretty clean. And after I cleaned out the compartment, we were off to the races. I mean, the thing plays like a champ. We've got FM, AM, we've got shortwave. It's got a nice couple of little features in there. It's got an alarm, it's got a sleep function. It's got a signal strength indicator. It has a light, if it's dark, you got to see what you're tuning in. It's got a DX and local switch, and, a case and a manual. Well, I had to say, we're taking this one home and gonna see what we can do with it. So it's a fine little set. I've had a lot of fun with it. It's, not much bigger, than a book. I'd say it's maybe 6 by 8, 6 by 9 inches and a couple inches deep. It's a nice little set. It packs a lot into it. The batteries, it does tend to eat. It's not good as far as, it'll test the best alkaline batteries. It does burn through them pretty good. Has a nice sound to it. Portable. It's nice to have. You take it anywhere in the yard, or, you're on the road, take it camping. Nice little set, and it got saved because otherwise that one was destined for the hefty bag and was not going to find another home. So,
And they're excellent sensitivity too.
Yeah, they are. And even though it was one of the Grundigs that was not, it was made in Asia, and it was a later model. The specs I think were done pretty well, and whoever they had manufactured for them followed the plan that they were given. So I think that was shortly before Grundig wound up getting involved with Eton and merging, and all kinds of crazy things happened. And now I know Grundig exists as a badge on a radio, but it's certainly not the Grundigs, we've come to know and love. I think we've actually managed to get through everybody on the list, John.
It looks, yeah, we had somebody pop in and pop out, but I cannot see them on the on the list
On the
anymore.
sheet?
They came in very late, so I think has anybody not actually been called on? I think you called everybody, but I just want to double
I think
check.
we got them all.
Do we want to sort of talk a little bit just about briefly about what the next few shows, what we sort of plan for?
Yes, we certainly can. We certainly can. So we're going to talk a little bit with Tom, if he's kind enough to come back with us on the 25th, and we're going to talk a little bit about some of the endeavors. It's interesting when you go through some of the clubs. Everybody has sort of a signature event. We have our 2 Brookline events, and then the big event that we have, in the winter. And in the case of the Antique Radio Club in Illinois, they run this big 3-day festival. They've been doing it for years. It's a big thing if you're in the central part of the country, and they get people from far and wide who go. It's called Radio Fest. So he's going to enlighten us a little bit about that. But if anybody had a question about the club out there or some of the things they do, I'm sure he'd be happy to answer. And then a little later on in July, we're going to do sort of a World War II and shortwave radio theme. We'll have a guest come in and join us. I have a little talk that I'm going to try to intersperse with that as well, but we'll probably do an announcement in the IO group. We would encourage you to bring along a set that you may have that relates to radio listening during the war, or if it's a piece of surplus electronics that you picked up that was actual war surplus, it's something you have that kind of fits into that theme, because in the summer we've come past victory in Europe. We're on our way to VJ Day, and we just passed D-Day, so it's a good time of the year to touch base with that time period. And then Tom is going to join us a little later on in July with a spy radio presentation, which I've seen a little bit of a tease for, but I think will be good. And the wristwatch thing, Tom, I have to tell you, is I thought that was only Dick Tracy, but apparently that's, mirrored in fantasy. There was a little reality there too. So there's some very interesting aspects to that discussion. So I think we'll do a little bit of a balance between having us to all have chances to share and to try to have some folks come in and speak with us as well to keep things fresh from time to time. If anybody at any time has a presentation they would like to give, or a topic they would like to have covered, or somebody they think would be interesting, if we'd like to have them aboard sometime to sit in with us or to share something with us, just let John or I know. We'd be more than happy to check in with you and see what we could put together. So I know that I believe John was going to check with David Crew, who'll be joining us a little later on in the summer for another presentation. And I believe Ken Silvestri was going to give us another presentation on some of that snazzy work he does with recreating dials. So we'll see if we can work something out, if you'd be kind enough to do that. So it sounds like it'll be a fun summer, and we try to keep it light, something to look forward to on a Thursday night. And, hopefully, even when COVID fizzles a little bit and we get back to having our regular schedules, I think this is something that I would certainly like to see continue. It's great to have a place to touch base with everybody and see what's going on, other than just 2 or 3 times a year. So that's what's in your Zoom future. We will try to put up a little bit of a schedule, or just even some list of coming attractions in the IO group. And if anybody has anything else that they'd like to share with us concerning the Zooms, feel free to touch base with John or myself, and we'll check back with you.
Hey, Paul, you might consider putting it on the website too, just for an occasional casual visitor who might see it and say, hey, for $6, I can be part of this.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I know we can easily do that on the Facebook, because John has got that right in his back pocket and can get that up pretty quick. We could speak to Joe Coco. And, I think if we're going to run with this, though, Carl, your point is a good one. And, it's a feature of the club, and it does come with your membership. I had a fellow, he hasn't joined us yet, but he was an ex-member who, when I explained we were doing these Zooms, renewed his membership and said, that's something I'd like to do. I can't always come in person, but he liked the idea of being able to get together virtually. So we'll talk to Joe.
Yeah, and also I'll keep posting the videos, the recordings of our shows on our Facebook site. On our YouTube site, and I'll send the links out when we do it. Now, what will happen over time is I'll have to cycle some out in favor of others. So it's not like people can cheat out and not become a member and just watch the cheap edition. So,
Well,
if
it's
they
a.
want to see it, they're gonna have to
Let me
pay.
tell you, it's a bargain rate for an internet membership. Let me
Well-
tell you, and it's the price of maybe 2 cups of coffee if you can find a coffee shop that's open. So I for one would say sign me up.
There are a
Considering
lot of people-
what you pay the cable company, this is a steal. You know, you got to look at it that way.
Right. Like there are people who spend $6 a day on a cup of coffee, no less a year.
I hear you. All right. Well, gentlemen, if with no further ado, if nobody has anything else to add, we'll bid you good Thursday evening, and we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah,
Tell
everybody.
Tell your friends in the club. Thanks for everybody. Thanks for everybody's efforts too, as far as sharing screens and putting little presentations together. It never ceases to impress me, everybody's skill level with putting.
Yeah,
things
that was great. There was a
We've
great
got a great
collection
group
of-
to do this. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for pulling this one together today.
all right.
Great.
Thank you, Paul.
Good night and good luck.
Thank
night,
you, Paul.
everybody.
John,
See you in
great.
a couple of weeks.
All right.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome, guys.
Thank you.
Good night, John Boy.